I'd like to run through some housekeeping arrangements. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Council's YouTube channel. The stream will be available to watch after the meeting has ended. This is the first time that an in-person full council meeting of Charnwood Borough Council has been live streamed. By attending the meeting, you are giving your consent to being filmed. A notice with further information has been provided in the public gallery. Councillors and officers are using new audiovisual equipment, so please be patient with meeting participants and officers as they get used to the new technology. As Mayor, I've agreed that members should remain seated while speaking at the meeting to ensure good sound quality. Under the openness of local government bodies regulations, people may film, record, tweet or blog this meeting, and this is outside the Council's control. I'd also like to remind councillors and the other people attending the meeting that the fire exits are to the rear and side of the room. There are no fire alarm tests planned for this evening, but I also ask that everyone turns off their mobile phones or switches them to silence so that the meeting isn't disturbed. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I've had the following apologies from honorary older women and older men. Honorary older women Vincent and Ransom and honorary aldermen Bush, Day and Tormey. I've also had apologies from the following councillors: Councillor Deborah Taylor, Councillor Sandy Forrest and Councillor Beverley Gray. Are there any other apologies, please? Harper Davis, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Fox, please.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fox. Okay, so Megan Pearce, Support Relations Officer from Dogs Trust, will now say a few words. Dogs Trust is one of my two chosen charities, the other being the LWA, the Living Without Abuse.
Hello everyone, good evening. Thank you for having me and thank you for your introduction, Madam Mayor. Like mentioned, my name is Megan and I'm from Dogs Trust. If anybody knows Dogs Trust, we are in Loughborough and I'm just going to tell you a short little story about some of the inspirational changes that we can make when we're bringing dogs and people together. There was a dog named Walter, a scruffy brown and white terrier mix, who spent most of his early life in a shelter. Walter had been picked up wandering the streets, his fur matted and his eyes wary. Though he has a kind soul, his fear and lack of trust made it hard for people to see his gentle nature. One day, a woman named Sarah visited the shelter looking for a companion to help her heal from a recent loss. She had never owned a dog before, but felt a pull toward the idea. As she walked through the shelter, she spotted Walter hiding in the back of his kennel, his ears down and his eyes big with fear. Something in his expression spoke to her, and she asked to meet him. The first time she reached out her hand, Walter flinched, but instead of giving up, Sarah sat beside him on the cold concrete floor, simply talking to him about her life, her hopes, and her sadness. She returned every day, and over time, Walter's flinches softened into curiosity. One afternoon, he sniffed her hand and leaned his head into her touch. Sarah adopted Walter, and together they began to heal. She took him on long walks by the beach, where he loved to chase the waves, and on quiet hikes through the woods, where he finally learned to run free. Walter blossomed into a loyal and joyful companion, his trust in Sarah unwavering, and Sarah found in Walter a love and resilience she hadn't known she needed. Walter had been a dog that no one believed in, but with little patience and love, he turned to be the one who saved her. This is a story that's not dissimilar to the ones that we speak with and we try and share within the Dogs Trust community. If anybody's got any questions, I'm going to be hanging around with the Mayor later on. So yeah, thank you for listening to me this afternoon. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Megan. I will now move on to item 2. Disclosures of pecuniary interests and other registrable and non-registrable interests. For information, disclosable pecuniary interests and registrable interests relate to entries that are included or should be included on a council's register of interest. Non-registrable interests relate to any other matters. I will now call on the Chief Executive to report on disclosures of interest in the business to be considered at the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had a number of disclosures. So from Councillor Meir in item 8.1, registrable interest as an LGA member peer. From Councillor Snart in item 9.1, the motion on notice as a personal interest related to the receiving the winter fuel payment. And Councillor Fryer also in 9.1, also because of receiving the winter fuel payment. There appears to be a couple of queued on the floor. So are there any further declarations from the floor, please?
Yes.
Councillor Boker?
Oh, the same on 9.1, please.
Thank you. Councillor Tillotson?
Yeah, the same, 9.1.
Councillor Angray?
Same 9.1.
Councillor David Infield?
The same, winter fuel payment.
And Councillor Birgitta Worrell? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Councillor.
Me also 9.1.
Councillor Andy Haynes.
Councillor Andy Haynes. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else that isn't on here that's not come up? Councillor Northridge.
Thank you.
Same item, Councillor Northridge.
Sorry, yes, the same item, the winter fuel payment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Page 6. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the council held on the 2nd of September 2024 be confirmed and signed as the correct record.
I second the minutes, Madam Mayor.
Does anyone wish to raise anything on the accuracy of the minutes? If so, please state the minute number. Since no issues have been raised, I take this to signify that the minutes are accepted as a correct record. Thank you, and I will now sign the official minutes I have here with me and pass to the Head of Democracy for archiving. The next item is item 4, announcements. Mayor's announcements. I have the following announcements to make. First of all, I would like to welcome our new councillor, Steve Bellamy, following his election on the 31st of October. Congratulations, Councillor Bellamy. I would also like to invite councillors to the Remembrance Sunday event on the 10th of November 2024. If you would like to be there, please be at John Storer House by 10:20. It will be great to see some of my fellow councillors at the event to pay tributes. The Loughborough Lights Christmas light switch on is on Friday the 29th of November 2024 from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, with the lights being switched on at 6:30 in the marketplace, so please do come along. My community carol service is on Thursday the 19th of December 2024, starting at 7 o'clock, but if you would like to attend, please be in your seats for 6:45. Again, it would be great to see some of you there, so do come along. Item 4.2, Leader's announcements. I call on the leader to make his announcements.
Madam Mayor, I have no announcements to make.
Thank you. Item 4.3, Chief Executive's announcements. I call on the Chief Executive to make his announcement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no announcements to make.
The next item is item 5, petitions. Are there any petitions to be presented tonight? Okay, smashing. So, we move on to item 6.1, the Capital Plan Amendment Report, page 14. I call on Councillor Ashcroft to propose the item.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, to enable the HRA Fire Safety Works scheme to be increased in 2024-25, funded from HRA Financing Fund, I move an increase in the HRA Fire Safety Works scheme in 2024-25 by £941,000. This is due to actions arising from fire risk assessments and compartmentation works identified as being needed. And this is to be funded from the HRA Financing Fund.
Councillor Hamilton.
I second this, Madam Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
So if any councillors would like to speak, please use the console. Please can I ask, though, that questions focus on the HRA Fire Safety Works, as the other matters in the Cabinet report have already been approved on the 12th of September 2024. Does anyone wish to speak? Okay. So, Councillor Hamilton, you reserved your right.
I have nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And I call on Councillor Ashcroft to sum up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The recommendation is pertaining to making provision for essential fire safety works. Funding is in place, and I recommend that this motion is voted for by the members.
Thank you. So I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Again, please vote using your consoles. Okay, so the motion is carried. Item 6.2, Gambling Act 2005, Statement of Principles, page 28. I call on Councillor Worrell to propose the item.
Madam Mayor, to ensure that under section 349 of the Gambling Act 2005, the Council has an up-to-date statement of principles to adhere to, which sets the Council's policy in respect of meeting the licensing objectives and responsibilities under the Gambling Act 2005. I move that the updated Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles, as set out in the Licensing Committee report attached as an annex, be approved. Thank you.
Councillor Lowe, sorry.
I second this, Councillor.
Do you reserve your rights?
I will do, but I don't think there's any need, Mayor.
Okay, just checking. So, if any councillors would like to speak, please indicate on your console. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to say that I approve the Statement of Principles, but it's worth mentioning that the Statement of Principles protects some of the most vulnerable of our residents, college students, FE students and university students and other vulnerable adults from gambling premises. But as everybody in this room is surely aware, the Statement of Gambling Principles doesn't actually protect from online gambling, which is a big issue. Thank you very much.
Councillor Boker. Okay, it's just... If you move your microphone a bit closer, you want to just test it and see if that's
Want
any
me to
better?
speak again, Madam Mayor?
Councillor Boker, would you like to?
Yeah, it's switched on.
Yeah, it just needs moving a bit closer, I think. Right, would you like to repeat what you said, please, Councillor Roberts? That would
I
be
can
then
repeat.
everybody can hear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to say about the gambling principles that these principles protect the most vulnerable of our residents, university students, FE students and secondary school students and other vulnerable adults from physical gambling premises, which is a very worthy goal. But one of the main issues with gambling is actually online gambling, and this statement of principles doesn't actually mention online gambling because that's with another regulator. But it is worth noting that online gambling is quite serious.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Lowe, was there anybody else before we move on to Councillor Lowe? No. Thank you, Councillor Lowe.
I have nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So I now call on Councillor Worrell to sum up, please.
I'm pleased to be able to recommend this Gambling Act 2005 Statement of Principles to this Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm now putting the motion to the vote. Again, please use your consoles to vote.
You have to cover.
That's it.
Okay.
Just wait for the results to come up on the screen. It should just confirm.
Just waiting for it to appear. There we go. Smashing. So the motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.3, political balance and appointments to committees. This item is not required as the political balance has not changed following the by-election, which was held on the 31st of October 2024. Item 6.4, exempt the repairs capacity. Since this is an exempt item, it will be considered under item 15 on the agenda. Item 7, call-in references. There are no call-in references from scrutiny. Item 8, position statements. A position statement about peer reviews is printed on page 4 of the supplementary agenda. The statement will be introduced, and after that, councillors who wish to can speak for up to 2 minutes each, and the discussions can last for up to 20 minutes. At the end of the discussion, there will be a summary. So 8.1, peer review. I call on Councillor Mear to introduce a position statement regarding the peer reviews.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's really pleasing to hear that the Conservative group take note of the leaders' update and the contents in it, which is great. But like most councils, turning to the peer review request for the position statement, Charnwood has a tiered system of performance management and assurance. This ranges from supervision for staff by their line managers and personal reviews through to quarterly performance reports to scrutiny and the annual corporate report. Within that system is a place for a periodic LGA peer review, and the council has been engaging with the LGA about a suitable date in 2025 for a corporate peer review. The LGA currently has Charnwood pencilled in for the autumn of 2025. The exact date will depend on both CBC and LGA capacity and availability. The LGA offers a range of peer reviews which support local authorities, providing insight, challenge and assurance. The most common form of peer challenge and the most appropriate for Charnwood is the corporate peer challenge. The LGA recommends that all local authorities undertake one every 5 years. Charnwood Borough Council last undertook a corporate peer challenge in 2018 and 19. Clearly, issues like the pandemic and administrative change have delayed arranging a new corporate peer challenge. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
If any councillors would like to speak, please indicate on your console. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're delighted to see that you're happy to support peer review. We do note that it says penciled in, and we'd just like you to try to commit to a specific time as soon as you're able, and to let us know when that's confirmed. We do also recommend that in addition to the following core areas, which we agree with, you might want to look at sustainability and net zero. So we'd encourage you to look at that too. Thank you.
Thank you. So I now call on Councillor Mayor to sum up, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I take on board the comments by Councillor Baines, and we'll circulate a firm date as and when we know with the LGA. And that fifth point, we can just refer it to the LGA, or it could be one of the things that we put in our own personal position statement to present to the LGA when we get there. But thank you very much.
Thank you. So item 9, motions on notice, page 60. There is one motion on notice on the agenda about the winter fuel payments submitted by the Conservative Group in accordance with full council procedure, Rule 9.12. Councillor Boker, would you like to introduce the motion on notice, please?
I move the motion on notice on pages 60 to 61 with 2 minor corrections. On page 60, item H, the percentage is actually 84% of disabled people, and on page 61, no, actually it is actually pensioners, 84% of disabled pensioners. And on page 61, under point 2, it needs to read, write to the 3 MPs, Peter Bedford MP, Edward Arger MP, and Siobhan Sandher MP. We brought this motion, Madam Chair, Mayor, because obviously you can read it yourself, but we over here are deeply concerned that many pensioners on lower and middle incomes will now not receive these payments. And across England and Wales, the number of people eligible for winter fuel payments will fall by 10 million people, from 11.4 million to only 1.5. And in Charnwood, the number of pensioners affected by the change in eligibility criteria is over 30,000. We believe the Labour government have set the threshold at which pensioners do not qualify for winter fuel payments far too low. Only those receiving a pension of less than 218.15 a week or 332.95 a week for couples are eligible for pension credits. This is significantly lower than the living wage rate. We're also concerned by the low take-up of pension credit, with only 63% of those eligible nationwide receiving them, and over 880,000 pensioners not doing so. This council should recognise the role it has to play to increase awareness of benefits such as pension credit, to ensure people are aware of the support they're entitled to. The energy price cap rose by 10% in October, which, combined by the removal of winter fuel payments, will push thousands of local pensioners and others into fuel poverty. The Age UK and other charities highlighted the social injustice and potential health risks posed by this abrupt policy change and believes that decision to means test these winter fuel payments, especially with such short notice and without adequate compensatory measures, is deeply unfair and will disproportionately affect the health and well-being of our most vulnerable older residents. The analysis carried out by charities found that 71% of disabled people will lose their entitlement, despite their greater dependence on heating their homes. And we are deeply concerned that the government did not carry out an impact assessment before putting the matter to a vote. Therefore, there is a list of resolutions on the next page.
Sorry, Councillor Boker, your time's up, thank you.
Sorry.
The time's up, isn't it? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you. Councillor Baines?
I second this, Madam Mayor, and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. If any councillors would like to speak, please use your console. Councillor Needham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move an amendment to this motion on behalf of the Green Group. Can I just check if the amendment has been circulated?
It needs to be seconded first.
Yeah,
Apologies, Madam Mayor.
Do you have a seconder?
Yeah, do you have a seconder, please, Councillor Needham?
Yeah, I second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Just pause while
So if we can just pause, please, for a moment.
the officers will
Well,
circulate the amendment.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Are you ready to Restart? Not yet. Okay. Okay, I think that's long enough now. Is that okay, Councillor Baines? Thank you. So, Councillor Needham, you proposed the amendments. You can wish to speak now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. We'd like to genuinely thank the Conservative group for bringing this motion tonight. We agree that the sudden changes to winter fuel payments is something that's going to have far-reaching impacts on our residents. Poverty is a huge problem in our borough, and the decision to cut off winter fuel payments at such a low income level will undoubtedly make this issue worse. Like most councillors in this room, I'm sure there are residents who have come to you like they've come to me since this announcement, who will now potentially face real financial struggles because they're just a few pounds over the limit or simply aren't taking up the help they're very much entitled to, because often they don't know how or where to turn, or because the benefit system is so complex. We agree with the majority of this motion in principle, and we also agree that the threshold is too low, in our opinion. But let me explain why we are moving this amendment. We do support the original motion, and we consider this a friendly amendment that goes just that little bit further to call on the government to rethink the cut-off point, invest in insulation and energy efficiency, and take the practical step of contacting our residents to support them with claiming pension credit. We feel that this keeps the spirit of the original motion and brings positive additions. On point B about the challenging financial situation, we do think that that's fair criticism, and I appreciate not everyone's going to agree. Let's not try and pretend that the previous government doesn't bear some responsibility for our current levels of poverty and for not addressing the state of the homes in this country. And let's not try to pretend that the new government didn't have different choices it could have made than yet another austerity measure. It's no good trying to put the blame of poverty, fuel poverty, in one place. But blaming councillors in this room for the choices their parties made in government helps no one and gets us nowhere. This amendment seeks to balance the language with the intention that all councillors feel able to support the motion. I recognise that it can be difficult to challenge your own party, but by passing this unanimously, we'll send a strong message to our residents that we're willing to move past tribalism and use the voice of this council to speak up for them. Secondly, we'd like the motion to acknowledge that poverty affects many in our borough. Disabled people, as referenced in the original motion, lots of vulnerable people, thousands of children, and yes, shamefully, a huge number of pensioners. That's why we're asking that the letter to the Chancellor includes asking for protection for all people at risk of fuel poverty. Nobody, whatever their age or situation, should be left cold or choosing between basic necessities, no matter who is in government. We have also amended the language about reversing the cut. It did say in the original motion that many people did not necessarily agree that it needed to be a universal benefit. There are many pensioners in this country who will be the first to admit that they don't need this money, but equally, this harsh cut-off point at the pension credit limit is too low, and as I said earlier, people are being caught out and are going to be left really struggling. Asking for a review of the cut-off limit rather than a complete reversal is, in our opinion, probably the right policy and one that's more likely to be accepted, and after all, a genuine rethink is actually what we all want. By adding the call to take as many steps as possible as a council to directly contact pensioners in the borough and help them take up pension credit, we think is a really practical step that we can take. We already do a lot in terms of support, such as the extra funding this year for the Citizens Advice Bureau and the work with our partner organisations. And this simple extra step, I think, would make a lot of difference and show that we as a council are in touch and proactive. Finally, asking for the original motion to include a call for further investment in warm homes is a win-win. Insulation and cheap, efficient energy solutions will bring down bills and improve people's health. As I said, we do consider this a friendly amendment that keeps the spirit of the original motion, which includes positives, practical help from the council, and calls for government to go further and faster with investment in warm homes. We only have a small amount of power to influence the government, but we hope that we can do that tonight and help ensure fuel poverty can become a thing of the past. I think we're all in agreement tonight that that's what we want to see. So I would ask that all councillors support this amendment tonight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes, having seconded it, do you want to speak now or do you reserve your rights?
Speak at the end, reserve my right.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm opening up the speaker queue for debate on this proposed amendment. And as always, could you use your consoles, please? Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, councillors. According to estimates from the Department for Work and Pensions, there are an estimated 16.1 million people in the UK who stated they had a disability in the 2022 to 2023 financial year. That represents approximately 24% of the entire population. I am one of those said people. I am fortunate I do not need winter fuel allowance, but many of my elderly residents would have previously been eligible, and some of whom would have compromised the other remaining 16.1 million people with disabilities. In fact, Age UK have estimated that 2.5 million older people on lower incomes are due to now lose their winter fuel allowance payment because of the new system in place. No doubt many have already been informed of this, and Councillor Boker and Councillor Needham also alluded to other statistics in this borough specifically. Now, evidently, I'm a Conservative member of this chamber, but I speak tonight first as someone with a number of disabilities. I know how testing day-to-day living can be. My blue badge is a lifeline, allowing me to walk shorter distances to overcome the pain I suffer with in both my legs and my back. Disabled pensioners who may have once been in receipt of the money but now have lost this fuel allowance due to a means testing algorithm also may regard their winter fuel payment as a lifeline. Therefore, I urge all members in this chamber to support our Conservative motion, and that this council does not believe its most vulnerable should lose their winter fuel allowance. It is a grossly unfair measure, and we need to send the message that Charnwood is opposed to this policy change by the new government. It feels unjust and goes against our nation's values of decency and generosity. Thank you very much.
Councillor Baines, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Delighted to see the amendment, see that there's recognition of the importance of the need to lobby government to ensure that it reconsiders its policy. Let's be clear, these cuts are not just numbers on a budget sheet. They'll mean the difference between being able to heat their homes and face potential health risks given the cold snap that's coming upon us. It's particularly concerning that we know that older adults, young children, those with pre-existing health conditions are especially vulnerable to cold-related illness. In a modern caring society, no one should have to choose. So we're very pleased to see that we're happy to accept this. We would like to point out, though, that we wouldn't specifically agree with our Green colleagues on the notion that on point B, regarding the challenging economic situation. We think that that's a moot point, specifically because of the way that the National Labour government have set up the idea of a black hole and all the rest of it. So we wouldn't support that, but we think in the spirit of support for the residents that we're happy on balance to accept it. And I urge my colleagues in the whole chamber to accept the Green Amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Snart, please.
Can you hear? Oh, fine, thank you. I'll get used to this new system. I just wanted to point out as well from Councillor Baines's reference to point B, the council recognises that the income and Labour government inherited a challenging economic situation from the previous government. Government is about choices, in my view. The government had choices and where they find money to finance their programme. The train drivers, they gave them a hefty pay rise. I understand that the train drivers were on probably about 60k a year. And when you look at the figures that we've had produced before us tonight about the amounts that pensioners are receiving on the lower scales and the amount that we actually get or they get before they can actually claim the winter fuel allowance, it seems out of kilter in terms of what the government chose. So I think really the government took the easy way out, in my view, and they took the money from the winter fuel payments, but let their chums, in terms of the train drivers, have a hefty pay rise without any strings whatsoever. So I do find it a little bit difficult to look at point B, but I shall look at it in terms of how I vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I initially read the amendment, I did feel like there was some political point scoring. However, on the balance, after hearing what Councillor Needham said, I do feel that she's tried to make this as apolitical as possible, and I think we should try and view this apolitically and look at the interests of our residents, and absolutely that we all have many people affected in each of our wards that we need to represent. And by voting on this unanimously tonight, I think that gives the clearest message that something needs to be done and that threshold needs to be increased. So I want to welcome this amendment by Councillor Needham. I think she's done a fantastic job, aside from the note around item B that can be interpreted many different ways. I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tillotson, please.
To encourage elderly people to vote Conservative. If this wasn't the case, it would have been means tested from the beginning, rather than giving it to millions of people who really don't need it. This government is now actively encouraging people to apply for pension credit, something that the previous government did not do. It is also worth noting that the new Conservative Party leader is saying she would reduce maternity rights. Could this be because young women in the main don't vote Conservative? I'll leave you with that thought.
Thank you. Councillor Anne Gray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you will have heard at the beginning, I declared an interest here because I became eligible for my pension this year, finally. I was very surprised to find that I would qualify for winter fuel payments had the system not been changed. I don't need winter fuel payments. My mother doesn't need them. She's 92. My residents who go on winter cruises don't need these payments. The people who spend the money on a bit of extra wine at Christmas don't need these payments. Some people do. It was right to take it away from those who don't need it, and it was right to get people on pension credit so that they can benefit from other benefits also. Many groups struggle not just with heating, but with their health and other services as well. Some of these women are women like me, the so-called WASPy women, who had their pension age changed not once, but twice, from 60 to 61, and then from 61 to 65, to 66. I'll just rephrase that because it was from 60 to 65 and then to 66. I do witness many women in my ward going through the menopause, post-menopause, not feeling well, struggling to drag themselves to work because the Conservative government decided to move their pension age twice. I just want to leave you with that point and to say we do need to work together for a fairer society. I will support the amendment. I think it's right that we look at the eligibility for keeping winter fuel payments, and eventually I hope we will get there. Therefore, I will be supporting this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Rattray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like many, I agree that the winter fuel payment should not be a blanket payment. That being said, the criteria to only offer this to those in receipt of pension credit excludes a huge number of our most vulnerable residents. My parents are both in their late 70s, both retired teachers. Their electricity and gas bills are twice what mine are due to them being in the house all day. They need to stay warm and stay healthy. This is the same for many of our older residents. The loss in their winter fuel payment is a big blow to many residents who are just over the low limit for eligibility. Time should have been taken to find a different mechanism other than pension credit to ensure we protect those that need it without giving it to the few that don't. I agree with the amendment and believe the threshold needs reviewing.
Thank you. Councillor Fryer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting the amendment as it is. I'm not happy with paragraph B, but we are where we are. I think I was entitled to universal pension credit and I've put it in my declaration of interest. I probably don't need it, but that is not the point. Everybody can accept the fact that possibly the winter fuel allowance needed reviewing, but it was the way it was done. With one breath saying, yes, we're giving, for example, the train drivers and other union members a salary increase, and then in the next breath, on the same day, saying, and from this winter, we are cutting the winter fuel allowance for pensioners. Now, why couldn't that have been phrased as, we've got to look at this, and from next year, it's possible that it would have been withdrawn. But no possible opportunity was given to readjust to this, to make sure it would be all right. And now it's scrabbling around, apply for, extra support, go and ask for extra funding. Now, an awful lot of pensioners, some of us in this room, are very proud and have worked jolly hard all our working lives. And in a way, because we're still councillors, we're still working on behalf of people. To go and put your hand out and say, I now need to get pension credit, you have to leap through so many jumps to even get it. I forget how many pages they have to fill in. So at the end of the day, it was badly thought out. That's what we're upset about. It could have been brought in next winter and given people time to get their funding and everything in place. I will be supporting this amendment put forward by the Green Party, and I thank them and I appreciate that they're trying to make it as friendly and which is correct as possible. At the end of the day, we're here for our residents, and the number of people I know buying wine for Christmas and going on long cruises, I'm afraid I could hold on one hand. and certainly not in my street. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Mayor, please.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I know this is a very emotive motion, and I support the amendment because up and down the country, Labour groups have been challenged with this kind of motion from Conservative councillors. But I think we can all agree that government of any colour have to make some tough choices, and some people will agree with them and some people won't. The last Conservative government, for example, brought in austerity, which impacted millions of the poorest and most vulnerable in our society. In 2010, the Conservative-led government switched benefit uprating from RPI to CPI. It cost the poorest £6 billion a year. In 2012, it capped benefit increases to 1% when inflation that year was 5.2%. It also brought in stricter benefit rules and tougher sanctions if you broke them. In 2013, it brought in the bedroom tax and capped benefits. In 2015, the new Conservative government abandoned targets to reduce child poverty, and in 2017, it brought in the two-child limit. In 2021, it took away £20 a week, £1,040 a year to those in receipt of universal credit. Let me say that again. It took away £1,040 a year from the poorest in our society. At that time, I didn't see a motion from the Conservative Party opposite. In all these instances, the Conservative group opposite were in power at this council, and not once did they bring a motion forward calling for any of these measures to be reversed. I remember on the occasions the Labour group brought motions, they voted them down, and I distinctly remember them referring to national politics, which they did not have any influence over. And as soon as the tables had turned, you have the same Conservative group whipping up a storm for their perceived political benefit. Not content in crashing the economy under Liz Truss, which led to a crushing general election defeat, may I remind them, they want to be the champions of the poor and the downtrodden. I am sorry, but I'm not sure that the public are that fickle or in that much of a forgiving mood to what you've done to this country and its finances. However, the positive is that we finally have grown-ups in power. Yes, they are making tough decisions to balance the books and to fix the black hole in the public finances. I just want to remind councillors in this room that winter fuel allowance has not been removed, but is now being means tested. Those eligible will still get it. It's public money, and I believe targeting it to those that need it the most serves the public better. Since the decision to means test, there has been a massive uptake in pension credit. Over 74,000 more pensioners have made a claim in the first 8 weeks after the announcement was made. Thousands more have applied since. This has led to a massive positive for those people. I want to thank our comms teams as well for pushing out the messages to sign up here in Charnwood. The original motion is nothing but political, and you can probably see why. From the list of welfare cuts and changes I read out earlier, the Tories opposite let them all come to pass without a whimper. However, we do share some of the concerns mentioned in the amendment. Therefore, we will agree the amended motion as per se. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Corey Lousley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to second what Councillor Mayor has said and thank Councillor Needham. It's a good cross-party amendment, and I'm happy to support it in the spirit in which it was intended. Some members tonight have mentioned point B of the amendment. The reality is we do have a black hole in the finances left by the previous government. In order to put that right, the Labour government's going to have to make some choices. Introduction of means testing this benefit is one of those choices. There are those who claim it who do not need it. It's not been mentioned yet, but I'd also like to remind everybody that this government is committed to the triple lock, which will result in a pay rise of 4.1% to pensioners. There are many people of working age who would very much welcome such an increase. This increase will also be worth more to pensioners than the loss of their fuel payments. Thank you.
Councillor Infield is next. After this one, I'm closing the debate, please. So, Councillor Infield.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, I will be supporting this amendment, but I do have a concern. We've spent quite a bit of time now discussing the policies of past and present government, and I don't think that's the main role for the council here. We're here to direct the council to the best way to serving the people in this area. There is a slight connection here, and I think that the amendment has improved that, asking us to go and assist people in getting pension credit. But aside from that, it's really about government policy, and I'd be very concerned if we see every contentious area of government policy over the next years, subject to debate here when that's not really our role. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to call on Councillor Haynes because you reserved your rights. Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Needham set out her reasons for proposing this amendment. I'll try not to go over the same ground again. We accept that the country has financial difficulties, but the causes of this are complex, and it's not fair to blame any one party. However, removing the pensioners' winter fuel payment was not inevitable. When you need to solve a problem, you do not do it at the expense of the weakest and most vulnerable members of society. I would hope that every member sitting in this room would agree with that. It goes beyond party politics, and for that reason, we would hope that this amendment is passed unopposed. I do think it's a bit of a shame that some people have tried to play off one deserving group against another. There are many undeserving groups with vast amount of money that the profits could be taken from, such as the fuel companies, the vast multinationals that don't pay their taxes properly. But I don't want to make political points too much on that. I just think that we need not pick at the weak people. We encourage every member to sign the Age UK petition, as we believe that this will be more effective than just having the leader sign it. Proper investment in house insulation and green energy sources is long overdue. There are many important reasons for this, but the relevance of this motion is that more efficient, environmentally friendly use of energy will lower bills and remove more people from fuel poverty. I second the amendment.
Thank you. So, Councillor Boker has moved the original motion, please. You can.
Do you want to sum
Come
it
up, please. Yes, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have to totally agree with Councillor Haynes and Councillor Infield. We brought this motion in all seriousness. We're happy to accept the Greens' amendments. I'm not particularly happy with point B on the first page, but having taken advice from my group, we're happy to now accept that. I do not see this motion as an opportunity for the Labour people to have a go and do a lot of point scoring. This is a serious motion and it's not for tit for tat arguments. So it is very sad that we have got to this point where we are means testing already fairly impoverished people as to whether they do or do not get the winter fuel allowance. And a point I would like to point out is that there has been no proper impact analysis of the actual financial net gain, which in reality is actually quite low. To start with, the new government have had to employ 450 more staff in DWP to cope with the massive increase in pension credit applications. So for Jules' information, that is a cost, not a gain. It has been mentioned by many authorities that the actual money raised from doing this very crash threshold is actually quite low and about something like 1.2 billion. Many older people don't even own a computer to fill it in online, and it will put them under terrible stress and anxiety. Imagine being 90 with some dementia and feeling very cold. Now they have to fill in a form. As someone mentioned, some will see it as begging, and in my opinion, it's disgusting. This is why vulnerable old people just want to give up in life. We should not be putting our vulnerable and old residents in this position. I would welcome any help that this council can give to such residents in filling in these forms. They are ridiculously long, and if I was 90 and shaky and didn't quite understand what I was doing, 30 odd pages is totally ridiculous. So we will agree to the amendment and we hope that the motion goes through in its true spirit and not as a point scoring go at past Conservative governments.
Thank you, Councillor Boker. So before we vote on this motion, I noticed that two people left the room, two councillors, Councillor Matthews and Councillor Hadji Nicolai. Unfortunately, because you left the room, you're not able to vote on this. I'm now putting the amendment to the vote. Could you please leave your consoles, use your consoles now?
If I may, Madam Mayor,
Sure.
you can still call for a named vote as per previous council meetings. You will need two councillors to ask for a named vote, and the voting system will then change to display the individual names and their voting preference. Councillor Boker, you will get a second opportunity because we are voting here on the amendment. We will have to return then to the substantive motion, and there will need to be another vote to approve or not the now amended motion. So at that point, you might, if you wish to, with another councillor, ask for a named vote. Okay, so that's been carried. So that motion is now.
Okay, so this motion, the amended motion is now carried.
So we return to debate.
Yeah, so we now need to return to the original.
The now amended substantive motion.
Yeah, the now amended substantive motion, and invite people to debate this.
For a point of clarity, if I may, do you want to speak, Karen? Or?
I've just been looking. It looks like one person has not voted. We should have 46 people voting on that last one.
No, we've already accounted for that.
Right. Okay, that's good then. Yeah, this is on the amendment. Yeah.
Now we have to vote on the main motion, which is now amended.
Yes.
So for clarity, members, you have just voted on the amendment proposed by the Green Party. That has now been approved, which makes it the substantive motion. You now have the opportunity to debate the revised substantive motion and then vote on that. And at that point, if you wish to call for a name vote, you will need to do so before the vote is called. Is that clear? Is everyone happy? Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone wish to speak?
Does anybody wish to speak? Please use your consoles now.
If you wish to call for a name vote, you need to do so. Councillor Needham. Councillor Needham can't speak.
Councillor Needham, sorry, you can't speak. You've already spoken before.
Okay.
All right. All the rules of the contest.
If nobody wishes to speak and nobody wishes to call for a name vote, you can move it to the vote.
Okay, so if nobody wishes to speak, we can move to a name vote.
I don't think anyone's called for a name vote.
Oh,
Madam.
okay, so we can move to the vote. So this appears now to be carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. Moving on now to item 10, questions on notice. As a reminder, the questions that councillors have submitted and the answers to them are in the supplements pack. Councillors, could we be quiet, please, and not sort of have conversations? Okay, thank you. I will call on those councillors who have indicated that they wish to ask a supplementary question. Supplementary questions must relate directly and exclusively to the questions submitted, and any other supplementary questions will not be permitted. Each councillor will have 1 minute to ask their supplementary question, and the councillor responding will also be able to speak for up to a minute. Item 10.1, community grants. Councillor Wesley, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to the lead member for her response. I'm very sorry, but I don't think my question was at all clear, so apologies for that. I'm interested in the £270,000 that was awarded to 7 organisations as confirmed in the council's press release in August. Clearly £270,000 is a lot of money, and it seems that many of our children and elderly have been largely ignored. So can the lead member therefore please articulate what strategy, if any, was used to determine who benefits from these awards and why? And have these decisions been subject to scrutiny? Thank you.
Councillor Blackshaw, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The grants have indeed gone through the scrutiny committee. I don't have the press release in front of me, so I can't address that directly. But yes, the grants are scrutinised. They have been checked by the grants officers and myself. We've gone through them in great detail. The information is there in the cabinet papers. I know children from Councillor Lee's own area have benefited directly from the support that we've provided. The modern painters, new decorators, which has recently moved from the Carillon to the new unit in Loughborough, have taken children from Quorn. Love for Life, including their T-shirt project, have taken children from Quorn and have helped work in supporting young women and girls and helping to raise aspirations. And finally, I do hope that he will join me in watching the Starlight Youth Theatre in Quorn when they who use their grant for radio mics, when they give their performance.
Thank you, Councillor Blackshaw. Time's up. Item 10.2, disposal of flooring from council properties. Councillor Bottomley, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Lead Member, for the response. Please could the policy be shared with members as it appears to be at odds with the feedback I'm currently receiving from residents? Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton, do you wish to respond?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear Can you repeat it, please?
Could you repeat it, please, Councillor?
Please could the policy be shared with members as it appears to be at odds with the feedback I'm currently receiving from residents? Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton.
Yes, it can be shared.
Thank you. Item 10.3, Suds Ponds Records. Councillor Bottomley, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Lead Member, for the response. We have a great number of suds throughout the borough, and they are an important part of flood management in new developments. Residents are told they need to report any issues or concerns to the responsible body, which can be any number of people, agencies, or management companies. However, this information can prove exceedingly difficult to find. Can the LPA work with the LLFA to create a list of the suds and the responsible bodies to help our residents know who to contact? Thank you.
Councillor Hamilton, do you wish to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I have full sympathy with this. It's not a district issue to maintain such a list. It is perhaps something for the Environment Agency or the local flood authority, and it's perhaps an issue that could be pursued at the Flooding Scrutiny Panel to pursue this information. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10.4, Armed Forces Champion. Councillor Fryer, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the lead member. On checking the CBC website via Google for the name of the Armed Forces Champion for Charnwood, only my name is mentioned. I have received a number of emails in the past month for the champion, such as Meet the Army event and a request from the Sea Cadets, plus other events I've been asked to. Why are there no contact details on the council website, and why has Councillor Blackshaw's appointment not been publicised? It would be appreciated for her to make herself known to all those of us involved with such events as the Veterans Breakfast Club. Thank you.
Councillor Mears, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, cheers. Thank you very much. Councillor, we take on board your comments and we will update the website. Thank you.
Item 10.5, bathroom capital environments. Councillor Snort, would you like to ask your supplementary question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was concerned to see the amount of capital removed from the bathroom budget. I understand from the figures in the response that this is due to underperformance of the delivery of bathrooms and level access showers being completed this year. In my view, to the disadvantage of our tenants who may be struggling with below standard facilities. I note the steps being taken to complete the backlog that has built up. Therefore, what assurances would the leader give to the council that this backlog of 537 bathrooms and 355 level access showers will be delivered during the council year 25-26? Will he confirm that the 25-26 budget for bathrooms will reflect the urgency to deliver the backlog of bathrooms and level access showers? Will he confirm that there is no health and safety risk by not delivering these backlog of bathroom showers and level access showers during the council year?
Time's finished.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I mean, again, I appreciate your frustration. There's been a number of reasons as to why there's been, why there will be an underspend this year. Of course, we have a new contractor now in place. They seem to be performing well, and we are putting things in place to ramp up. So the expectation is that we will be able to catch up, as it were, with the replacements. And in addition, of course, we're doing a stock condition survey of all properties now moving forward, and that will help us to move on to, shall we say, a condition-based approach rather than simply a lifetime approach as we do at present. So that should help as well. Thank you.
Item 10.6, delivery of housing developments. Councillor Snort, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I note the listed evidence shown that the suggested mix of market dwellings should be largely split between 2 and 3 bedroom dwellings, for which there is demand. From its own figures in the response, I note that 4+ market dwellings on the large sites have risen from 22% to 34% over the 2-year period, getting on for double the target of 20% by Henna. Recently, I note one application having a 44% of 4+ dwellings of market housing on one side, over double the figure recommended. I note the leader agrees with me that we should have a housing mix to help the first-time buyers and elderly to downsize. But it seems since the administration has been in office, the opposite has happened. In my view, building dwellings that are possibly best for developers' bottom line. Therefore, will he confirm that this has been an increase in the percentage build of 4+ market dwellings on larger sites over the past 2 years since this administration has been in control, which has been detrimental to first-time buyers and elderly people wanting downsize?
Sorry, time's out now, please. Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, do you wish to respond?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the key thing to note, of course, here is that the HENA guidelines are guidelines, and they can be varied subject to submitted evidence from the developers due to, say, viability of the site, the state of the housing market, and other kind of local geographic factors. So they are guidelines that we try and follow, but they can actually be altered subject to submitted evidence to be otherwise. But yes, I'm also concerned about the requirement for smaller properties.
Item 10.7, housing assessments. Councillor Snart, would you like to ask your supplementary question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only ask this question because I have some difficulty in obtaining information from for a constituent whose application was received by the Council on the 12th of March 2024, with supporting documentation received 4th of June. On the 12th of September, I was told by officers that the application was likely to be determined within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I received information today that this application is due for assessment this week. I note from the information supplied in the response to my question that the average completion of the assessment decisions in Q2 was 72 days. I note that the team are aiming to clear the backlog by the end of November. Therefore, would the leader commit to updating members of the Council in early December on the current position with the backlog of application assessments at the end of November 2024? Would he commit to checking on the communication links when information is requested by members of the Council?
Councillor Hamilton, do you wish to respond?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Yes, as you know, there's been within the team some vacancies and some staffing changes, which has led to this backlog, which is now being cleared, and the intention is it will be cleared by the end of November. But it's something, I think it's been referred to scrutiny as well, so it's something that will be checked moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10.8, light bulb service. Councillor Snart, would you like to ask your supplementary question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to see that we're working with our light bulb partners to find the best solution to delivering this important service to some of our most vulnerable residents within the borough. Would the leader confirm that before any decisions are made, this will be taken to scrutiny? I note that the Disabled Facilities Grant allocation for Charnwood was underspent the previous year. From the spend commitment figures from this council year, it seems to will be underspent again. Would the leader give details of why these underspends are occurring and what impact this is having on the delivery of this vital service to some of our most vulnerable residents? Finally, is there a backlog of works to be completed?
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I agree this is a topic that should be subject to scrutiny, and hopefully that will be moving forward. Again, I have to say there's been positive dialogue between the districts moving forward. Also must state that, of course, that all parties must agree moving forward, and that includes county, but hopefully we will have a proposal moving forward, which I think is due in Q4 of 24-25. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10.9, energy performance of council properties. Councillor Boker, would you like to ask your supplementary question?
Yes. Can I thank the responsible lead member for the response, which was fairly detailed to my question. I did ask, they did agree at the end that some council dwellings are directly lit to non-UK nationals who are eligible for housing assistance. Could someone please supply me with how many that is out of our housing stock?
Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, one part of my question was achieving the energy efficiency level required to rent a home by 2030 to level C, which you've answered quite adequately. But on a wider issue, I also asked how many council properties are being rented out to refugees in Charnwood, either directly or via Serco, and the statement says some are, but how many?
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. I mean, the key things we have to differentiate between asylum seekers and people with refugee status. And of course, asylum seekers are not involved in this process at all. As far as people with refugee settled status, they just go into the housing regulator if they qualify, the same as anyone else. So I don't know if I think, well, I can dig out the number, but I don't know if it's appropriate, because if they have a local connection, they're treated no different from anyone else, certainly no priority. They're treated as any other resident that has the right to be on the housing register.
Sorry, Councillor Bowker, through the chair. You've asked your supplementary. You can't keep coming.
Have you finished answering, Councillor Hamilton?
Yes.
We'll move on to the next one. Thank you. Item 10.10, CIL contributions. Councillor Bowker, would you like to ask your supplementary, please?
Being legalised, shall we say, or accepted? And will CT, council tax, be increased to fund this levy?
Councillor Hamilton?
Sorry, I meant the introduction of this levy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Hamilton, if you
Thank
can
you, Madam
just
Mayor.
make some reply, please.
No, it shouldn't have any impact as such. This will be, it takes about 12 months to prepare. In the interim, there is, was it INF 1, INF 2 within the draft local plan through the section 106 that will deal with the monies moving forward. And it is then the community infrastructure levy, when it goes through the process, will be a charge that we made to developers. So it shouldn't be a council tax issue at all. Thank you.
Update on changes to the Constitution, planning matters. I understand that Councillor Needham does not have a supplementary question, and so we'll move on to the next agenda item. Item 11, minute references. There are no minute references. Item 12, urgent executive decision exempted from call-in, page 62. This is a report to inform the Council of a decision which was exempted from call-in in accordance with Scrutiny Committee Procedure 11.9. Please note that the annex for this report contains confidential information, so if members wish to discuss this, please state this before speaking on the item. Okay, so we'll move on. Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 13, appointments to committees. Are there any changes to the appointments of committees? No. Right, moving on now to item 14, exempt item. It is recommended that the members of the public be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the following items on the grounds that it will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act 1972, and it is considered that the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Please, could I have a seconder?
I second this, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we're just making sure that any members of the public...
Move it to the vote, please.
Right.
You need to move it to the vote first.
Oh, right, okay. So could we please use your consoles and just members to vote, please, on this?
Please can members vote, please?
Sorry?
We just need members to finish voting.
Yeah.